Cyber psychology, internet psychology, or web psychology is gaining momentum and greater recognition as more and more people are embracing the virtual world. The COVID pandemic has accelerated changing lifestyles and a constant digital presence. Youngsters and adults spend significant amount before a screen, either chatting, learning, playing, or shopping. An individual need for recognition and self-actualization is growing as youngsters try to form and establish identities online. Almost a hunger for appreciation, coupled with vulnerability to online content, is paving the way for several problems regarding health and well-being. While new technology has and will play a role in some ways humans think about the world and their position in it, rapid technological progress in recent times is intensely altering our interactions. As a result, the way we think is notably different as we consume new information, communicate with each other, and internalize our feelings. Cyberbullying has implications for child and adolescent development and even adult well-being and is a growing concern. Our guest today is Nirali Bhatia, who is a cyber psychologist, internet addiction therapist, and a psychotherapist. With over a decade experience in counseling for anxiety, depression, relationship issues, and behavioral issues, and counseling cyber victims. She is a TEDx speaker, a trainer, and has been quoted in various articles in leading newspapers and regularly appears on several news channels. She is also the director of V for Web Cybersecurity and founder of an anti-cyberbullying organization, Cyber BAAP, which stands for Cyberbullying Awareness, Action and Prevention. I'm so happy to welcome Nirali to the podcast today. We're so glad you joined us, Nirali. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mrudula. It's completely my pleasure as well.
Thank you. Off the bat, I just wanted a brief intro on what cyber psychology was and why is it gaining so much of importance now?
To explain it very simply, cyber psychology is the study of impact of internet technology on human mind and behavior. Yes, it is an almost 2 to 3 decades old field. While it was restricted to areas of research, as in the applications were in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of software generation, those areas. But now, over the last decade, if you see, the way internet has become an integral part of common man's life as well.
True.
That's where the need to understand how it is impacting us, each one of us, in a different way and in a very, very serious way as well. So that's where the need of this entire study has increased multifold. The application areas have increased. And yes, this field has reached to our country also very, very recently. But I am glad that it is picking up because without understanding, we are using something so extensively, which is becoming, at times even fatal. So that's where the need is extremely important to understand that how and where are we being impacted by this entire internet technology. And then we have the subsets, like we have the social media psyche, the cybercrime psyche, and so on and so forth.
Unbelievable. I mean, it seems to be a very vast thing that most people are unaware of. And hence, if you're unaware, you're unable to reach out for help, in a particular issue. And
Yes.
While social media has allowed almost an unfettered window into people's lives, it has triggered the phenomenon of FOMO as well, right? So how
Yes.
this dichotomy?
This is $1 million question because FOMO is one of the reasons this whole space is becoming very addictive for a lot of people. We wake up to social media and we are going to bed to social media. I mean, it's kind of replaced our alarms as well, I feel at times. So this entire, fear of missing out is driven by the fact that the information on social media is so fast. that if you do not look at it now, it's lost because you have multiple other posts and feeds and all coming in. So not only is it making us very anxious and extremely impatient to check what's happening, am I missing on something, also it is making us extremely reactive. Things that require reading, understanding, logically analyzing it, and then responding has all been substituted by an impulsive reaction because of FOMO. If you take an example, let's say you are in middle of something and your phone shows you a notification of a tweet that is trending. Now, if you don't attend to it now, and if you decide, like some of us working professionals, that okay, I have a fixed time where I dedicate that this many, this much amount of minutes I'm going to spend looking at my Twitter. But by then, that particular tweet is now, preceded by so many others that you lose it. So that is also one of the big reasons that this entire thing being working on a push mechanism, that without we asking, it keeps on coming and it gets so overwhelming. It is driving people to react then and there. So that's how it has become. But the best way to deal with this is that also understand that if anything on social media today gets immediate attention and becomes viral in a fraction of a second, at the same time, it's equally short-lived. So be very wise and careful in what you want to give attention to. Not everything needs a reaction. Not everything requires, your response or your reply. You could simply be a spectator, take your time, and then you react. So I always phrase it as use that as a mantra of practicing the pause. Anytime you come across something, have a read, but pause before you react to it. So that pause, it could be a few seconds or a few minutes, will allow you to logically also think about it and not simply act on your impulse.
I think that's
practicing the pause can really help manage this FOMO and also understand that everything is here to stay. You need to just have that little patience which this is taking away.
No, very, very true words. Pause, reflect, and don't be trigger happy. So I think those are very useful mantras to have. Online lessons and tutorials are, a big boon to young students right now, given the COVID lockdown. But they're sometimes exposed to a lot of cyberbullying, right? And this greatly affects their growth and development. Now, this is not just restricted to children. It is also present in adults. And what would you say are 4 important ways to prevent cyberbullying? To prevent that?
Yeah, I mean, so far prevention is the best way to deal with it, because we really do not have very, very specific legal or law enforcement action predefined to it. So yes, prevention is with the given situation, yes, things have changed. Our use, especially for children in the online space, has increased because education is now completely online. What has happened is that things have moved so fast that while we have given children a new huge tool, but we have not educated them on how to use it. We have not inculcated certain etiquettes and hygiene factors in them. We've just given them a huge box that go explore and go play. And that's also resulting into bullying and harassment kind of nuisances online. In my organization, which I run, which is a anti-cyberbullying organization called CyberBab, we get reports of people who've been bullied or harassed online. In this lockdown period, I've got more than 1,000 reports, out of which 70% is teens and tweens.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know whether I should be happy that at least they are reporting, or I should feel worried that it is 1,000 in 3 months, which is a huge number. And yes, there are a lot of them which are where the platform is online classes. So when we speak to them, we come to know that, even the bully, the perpetrator, sometimes is not aware that what he or she is doing accounts to bullying. So
Okay.
that information is missing, that knowledge is missing, awareness is missing. What they feel is a classroom fun. When it becomes a bullying act, they are not aware of. So yes, that is the first mantra, or that's the first remedy, I would say, that please talk to your children, make them aware what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. Second is inculcate good digital hygiene as a family rule, as a school and an educational institutes conduct, and also at a personal level. Because whatever you do on internet leaves a footprint, which we call it as digital footprint. And your digital footprints are kind of permanent. They're not going anywhere. So your today's fun can cost you your tomorrow's dream university or a dream job. So making them aware of this is extremely important. The third aspect is in terms of language, in terms of communication. That while we have given access to children of how to use it, but we have not taught them what kind of language is required, what kind of etiquettes are required in cyberspace. So this also to a long way helps in curbing bullying, because it educates them, it makes them aware where to draw a line, what kind of code of conduct is ideal behavior on this internet medium. And lastly, it is the monitoring of the content that today children or individuals are consuming. If you look at this, then internet today now has become biggest platform for entertainment also. It's no longer just education or communication. With all your digital and web series coming in, if you look at the content that is available in all forms on internet, most of that is either sexual in nature or abusive in nature. Now this is the content that even our children are consuming. This is the content that we are consuming on a day-to-day basis, and what we read or what we, it's a age-old phenomena that what we are reading, what we are listening, that becomes our thought, and eventually that becomes our action, and then again it's a cycle.
True.
So these are 3-4 things which, if we are very, very vigilant about, we can ensure that we have a very pleasant experience on internet and on social media, and even in your online classrooms. So I'll summarize again the 4. The first one being it was let me not go by the order because I will not remember the order, but yes, filtering the content that you are consuming. Then having a right awareness in terms of what is acceptable, when does it become bullying, and what are the repercussions of bullying act, both for the victim as well as for the perpetrators, because we look at it that 50% children are victims, rest 50% are bullied themselves as well. Then the third one is in terms of your digital communications, to manage your digital footprints. So these are the areas where you all can, help ensure that you have a pleasant experience on internet and you don't fall prey to cyberbullying.
Excellent. Thank you so much for those points. Talking about, being careful because of a lack of legal recourse. What legal recourse is there for cyberbullying? And how do you believe that governments can help greater in this regard?
So technically, by definition, when the victim is under the age of 18, any kind of harassment that is in terms of intentionally done to hurt or to annoy someone becomes cyberbullying. If an adult is involved or adult is a victim, then it could be considered as harassment, stalking, trolling, etc. Okay. Now, in our IT Act or in our IPC, we don't have a separate act for cyberbullying, but the components of this are covered under certain IT Acts and under certain IPCs. Like harassment is covered separately, maligning someone is covered separately. So that is how law and order is functioning. However, when it comes to children and when it comes to sexual offences against children, then we have a separate act called POCSO, which specifically caters to any kind of sexual offenses involving children. So
Okay.
currently, this is the legal recourse that we have available with us, and hence we emphasize that rather than waiting till the incident happens, let's emphasize on awareness to prevent this. The
Right.
more the children are aware, or more we individuals are aware and vigilant, we can prevent a lot of this kind of harassment and bullying. If we understand the impact of screen, which is the screen disinhibition effect, which is actually impacting the way we think, the way we act on the screen, and the way we talk. In fact, technically, we no longer talk, we are only texting.
Right.
So that is also leading to, because it is, while this medium is giving us a lot of freedom of expression and speech, but we are not realizing that this same medium, it is also influencing us in such a way that we are unable to understand where to draw a line. So either we end up being very, very benign in our communication, like we over share information,
Right.
we over trust, or we are getting toxic, where we do not realize that how negative we've become, and we end up trolling someone. So if we understand this, if you're making people aware about this, is where they could pause, they could reflect, and then they could respond on internet, which that one little polite language can change a lot of harassment online.
And it's because it's also the response, right? When once you start off on a negative note, you get back a negative note, and then it's this vicious cycle that starts.
True.
And how do you think the government really can perhaps aid more? Or what are they doing?
So, what, in my opinion, what best can be done is make maximum harassment or bullying is happening on social media platforms. Now, these all intermediaries are governed by certain regulations that every country has. So, at a government level, we could have a little more stringent regulations. We could have a little more stringent response time from them. So currently the biggest problem that we face is that when, like I mentioned, that organization like ours, we handle and we help the victims manage reporting and managing the cyberbullying incidents. Now, when we face these challenges on social media, and when we write to them, it's a very long process. It takes about months for them to respond. In this manner, what happens? The damage continues to happen.
Right.
See, the damage on any kind of harassment on internet is not physical. The wound is never physical. It is invisible. So it's not visible. So when it's not visible, people cannot empathize, and hence it takes the victim a very long time to come out of it. Plus, because the response time from the intermediaries is very long, this continues to happen. Plus, they do not have appropriate measures in terms of identifying. So it is somewhere giving a lot of anonymity, even if it is temporary. It is still giving that anonymity to a lot of people to experiment and become perpetrators like this.
Right.
So if at a government level we could manage and we could regulate these things, it would help us curb a lot of nuisances that is happening. I'm not saying that don't give the freedom to people to express, but along with the freedom, if people are not able to understand responsibilities, at least we could have these intermediaries ensuring that their roles they are playing well enough and abiding to the rules of our country, which we could lay down more stringently. The most common hassle what we see is, so they do have policies of non-tolerance toward harassing comments and all, but consider our country where we have multiple languages. The abuse usually is in a regional language, which the algorithms of these intermediaries do not understand. And hence, that kind of content gets away and it does not meet their criterias of harassment or something. So this lag is where we need the regulation from government to put in certain practices and have a local language version, or have them catered. If they want to cater to a country like ours, they need to also filter in all these factors. So that is where I feel as a government they can help us.
I think that's a very important point. Not only a strong deterrent, but also the fact that you reach out into the most local languages to pick up on, a standard language like English might not pick up, right? It's a very
just English may not suffice. Yes.
So I just wanted to say thank you so much, and it's incredible.
My pleasure.
It has actually created this situation where we're all online a lot more than perhaps what we would like. The exposure is also phenomenal because of that. So
yes,
really enlightening, because I think this would help a lot of people to recognize not only if they perpetrate something, but also the fact that if they are the victims of cyberbullying.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time and your valuable
My pleasure.
Thank you so
much. Thank you so much.